as well. Good morning, Mr. Fatuke. Good morning. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much, Tomisi. Good morning, Nigerians. Nice to be here.
And of course, our colleague and the CEO of Boys Lives Matter Foundation, Nkechi Macaulay, is also here with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Tomisi. Good morning, Lagos.
She can speak for Africa, so you get to know that. Some people have background. Don't forget the fact that they are running NGO. They have background in... Well, let's talk about boys. Earlier this week, on the 16th of May, was the International Day of the Boy Child. Children, they do say, are becoming the most abused and the endangered species, but it's becoming much more fearful that our boy child, every single boy child, runs a greater risk of abuse, of sexual abuse, between being a baby and when he is a teenager. A 21-year-old boy tells of the story of how he was abused by his pastor, sodomized by his pastor. How that happened, how it continued to happen, a lot of people have continued to wonder. But let's still talk about it this morning. I have Mr. Fatuke here. Let him tell us how it used to be with the boys, how we are raising our boys differently today, and what has changed in society. I think it, of course, deals, runs around the stories and tries to get involved in advocacy and mobilization. So thank you once again for being here.
Thank you.
Nkechi,
yes.
I shared a story with you last
Yeah.
week when we were talking about this invitation.
Exactly.
I did share with you how a 2-year-old twin were abused. One a boy, the other a girl. Obviously, abused. The two people, the two culprits, one is 16, the other is 19, and they were uncles to these two babies.
Yeah.
Now my question is, obviously, for those boys to have sodomized the boy, abused the girl, baby, 2-year-old,
Yeah.
it obviously means somebody introduced them to it as well.
Yeah.
Where exactly did we get it wrong? Is it about raising the boys, or is it undue exposure?
Okay, so first and foremost, I think our perception about boys being abused is what? We don't think the boys are vulnerable to sexual abuse. We don't think the boys can be abused. We don't even believe that a boy can suffer abuse. So we focus on girls, and that's where the problem is. Because 1 in 6 boys is vulnerable to being abused before he turns 18. 1 in 4 girls. For boys, it's 1 in 6 boys. So that means there's a high tendency that a lot of boys, a lot of men today have suffered abuse. They didn't know it was abuse. They've gone through it, and they are grown men, but they've had a history, a past of being abused by females and by males. So it's our perception. We don't believe it can happen, but it's happening. It has been happening, and it's still happening till now.
So it's not a new thing.
No, it's not. It's ask a lot of men what happened to them.
Thank God there's a man on the table this
Yes.
morning. Mr. Fatuke, in your days, you were in a boarding school. You schooled in the far north. Have you ever, was it an unheard of thing? Was it something that could be publicly discussed that a boy is abused?
Thank you again, Tommy Singh and Madam Nkechi. I like that. And to my fellow listeners who are men, can we come out of the closet and stop all these pretenses? Who says, like you said, 1 out of 6 is not abused? Perhaps now, I want to tell you for sure that about 1927, outside the shores of Nigeria, talking about the Negroes, the slave, and all that kind of stuff, men were abused silly. Of course, from the US law came to now, okay, we were under the colonies and stuff like that, and then we started saying what is really abuse, especially
here in Africa. We're full up with phenomenal stories that make you go. Stories like stories that make you feel. So rise up and live your stories with Niger's best shows and much more.
Who the best? It's you.
Get 1 month of DSTV Compact and HD decoder and dish for only 14,900 Naira. And make every story your moment with DSTV Nigeria.
Oh baby girl, show my bami dele. I want to marry you, no be play. Oh baby girl, come follow me home, mama minduro. Won't fake one do. Oh baby girl, come be my lover. I wanna care for you, yes, forever. Oh baby girl, you are my sugar banana, pretty nana, baby. Oh, back for me, I will sing for you. Do re mi so me. I will love you longer than the family. I will care for you more than care me. Baby, oh, back for me. I will sing for you. Do re mi so me. I will love you longer than the family. I will care for you more than care me. Baby, oh, back for me. You want it come so new. Always on my mind, baby, oh. Oh, baby, oh. Oh, baby, oh. You want it come so new. Oh, baby, oh. Oh, baby, oh. Oh, baby girl, come give me children. Whether na boys or girls, I don't care. I know they'll make a lot of sense. I can place all of my bet on it. Let me love you, sell and sell, baby. My tomato just. You are the one I've been looking for. You are the one that makes my world so beautiful. Let me be your full baby, oh. I will sing for you. I will love you longer than I will care for you more than care me. Baby, oh. I will sing for you. I will love you longer than I will care for you more than care me. Baby, oh. You want it come so new. Always on my mind. Baby, oh. Oh, baby, oh. You want it come so new. Always on my mind. Oh, baby, oh. Baby, please come marry me. I wanna take you to mommy, me. Take me to your family. Oh, baby, oh. I beg you, I am on my knees. Oh, baby girl, just take this ring. Oh, yes, I'm proposing. Oh, baby, oh. I love you till we gray, no. Forever I will be your own. You are my heart, you have a stolen. Oh, baby, oh. Oh, baby, oh, yeah. Oh, baby, oh. Oh, baby, oh. Oh, baby, oh. Oh, baby, oh.
Here in Africa, we're full up with phenomenal stories that make you go. Stories like stories that make you feel. So rise up and live your stories with Niger's best shows and much more.
Who the best? It's you.
Get 1 month of DSTV Compact and HD decoder and dish for only 14,900 Naira. And make every story your moment with DSTV Nigeria.
Welcome back to the Bumper Breakfast. Apologies for that technical issues that, were in Nigeria. It does happen. But We apologize for the abrupt break. We were just talking about sexual abuse in a boy child. And Mr. Fatigue was trying to tell us if it was something that used to happen, still happening, or do men even need to feel shame at all? He did say, men, can you all come out of your closet? Mr. Fatigue.
We must come out of our closets. We are now in the century where we should say it exactly as it is. Gone are the days when the macho, they must not hear that we heap on women. It's coming to steer us clear in the face. And so may I start to shake the table and ask our viewers, anybody from about 80 years still alive, up to now, come and tell the public, raise your hands, as the male folk, and say you have not been abused. And so may I say, I have been abused. Dare not say, who am I going to get to hear that? My macho. And don't forget that the issue of abuse, and she can bear me out, is that the male fellows and the sex organs, naturally based on what you see, just goes like Nigerian's democracy.
Yeah.
Want it to go everywhere but nowhere. And so when you do a bit of a rubbing, it comes on.
Yeah.
My own first abuse was maybe about a 16-year-old girl lady who already has, and then was asked to go bathe me back in the Ibadan. By the time she put me at the back, I just noticed that the thing was just going up and down like jaga jigi janga. People will know. People of my age, a bit older than me, will understand. And she was making it like it's a playful thing. And then the next thing that I just noticed is that Jack Thomas, or is it Thomas Jack, was already doing like I got my lizard. What is this? I dare not mention it to my grandmother, who weaned me. Now, if I was a youth that happened, let the truth also be told that in those age grades, 10, 20, 25, who told you, Nkechi, that a 70-year-old man today is not being abused? Of course, never had, it should not be had. But what we are doing is putting nail on the coffin of the hapless boy child. And secondly, you are a man, you must not be seen
to be weak.
You must not be seen to be weak, and all that kind of thing. You must go out. And so if you are going on Broad Street or Martin Street, and then people say, hey, your manhood has been touched, you want to go crazy and mad. Why? Because the male child perhaps psychologically has been conditioned to know that his weapon of power is not the intellect.
It's rather the organ.
It's rather than
Mr. Fatuge, it's rather the organ.
black and white keyboard that puts an orchestra.
Ikechi.
It's
This is quite a revelation.
yeah.
So it's not something that is new in our society.
No.
He did say he dare not tell his grandmother
About it.
about it.
Yeah.
And then as parents today, we're not in the stone age. How do we identify, from what you've seen so far,
Yeah.
how do we identify that our boys are being abused? And when we find out, what do we do?
Okay, so let me start by saying that let's understand abuse in two formats. There's an abuse that has to do with a female abusing a boy. There's also men or males who abuse boys. And when it comes to the female, because for a boy, sometimes the female believes that because they have an erection, that was consent. Women believe that when a man has an erection, it's consent to sex. But coming from a boy child, excuse me, how
Does
is
it-
that
does it
consent?
even know?
How is that consent? It is not. So most times they tell the boy, because it is stood up and you enjoyed it in quote, then you consented to it. And the boy will tell, don't say what about it because you liked it. But excuse me, if you give your child bananas, it is sweet, they will like it. So let's get that very clear. For the men who abuse boys, it is a trauma. It is traumatic because it's about anal sex. So boys go through that as well. So how, as a mother, would you know if your son has been abused? So let's start with the physical signs. For if it's a male on a boy, if a man had abused a boy or boys had abused boys, in fact, boys are abusing boys. It's a common practice in schools now, as early as primary level. As early as primary level, boys abuse boys.
We'll just be school. We'll be homeschooling our children.
You
now.
can't even at school, but whatever you want to call it. So, if it's a male on a boy child, most of those boys undergo trauma, physical bruises on their genitals. They bleed. Some have bruises. Some have even fractured penis. And it is so painful because it is painful. It is not, it is painful. Let me say that word again. It is painful. So if you look at your son and you see that around his anus, there is signs of bruises. It is not a croc. Check it again and
It's not
to the
infection.
Not infection. You may have to take him to a doctor to check that out. If you see bruises around his anus, bruises around his penile region, those are signs something is wrong somewhere. And let's come down to the behavioral signs. When boys have gone through that kind of experience, you see them begin to talk about it, dropping words about it. You see your son talking about sexual words. You can decipher from his words, his language, sexual connotations, sexual words. And you're like, where did this boy learn it from? That's one. You also discover that he doesn't want to be with some people. Your son may not like a particular auntie, a particular person. It could be the maid. It could be your sister. It could be an uncle. It could be his own father. It could be his own mother. It could be a friend, a family friend, or a neighbor. There's something, he doesn't like that person, and you're asking him why, he's telling you, I don't want this auntie around me. Or it could be the maid at home. I don't want to stay with the maid at home. He's telling you, I don't want him. He's crying about it.
Something is
wrong. All right? Now, you also look at, so because of experience regressive behaviors, we start from sucking. You start bedwetting. Some begin to hold their penis. You see them itching it over there. Their hands is always going to that part of the body all the time. Something is wrong somewhere. And then you also discover
I thought you said it was sexual awareness that makes men do that.
No, in some cases, you have to see this it has to be a complete overview of all these to show that there are signs something is wrong. Your son who was a bit outspoken become withdrawn, or he talks too much, or he begins to peep Tom. Your baiting is looking at you. He likes to play around with you, touching your body private parts. He's always also touching other kids' private parts. Something is wrong with your son somewhere. And then he begins to lose interest in school. He doesn't want to go to school. He's not happy. He's aggressive. He's depressed. He's withdrawn. All of this can portend something is wrong with your son. Or you see him playing with his teddy bear or his toys and he's in his sexual violent ways. You have seen your son manifest inappropriate sexual behaviors. But you're like, something is wrong with my son. He wasn't like this before. These are the signs that your son has an issue and you need to wake up.
And go somewhere.
Yes.
Unfortunately, who do we talk to, Mr. Fatunka, when a child has this kind of issue? In the case of the child that was abused by the pastor, and it were 3 boys, am I correct?
3 boys, 3 brothers, not even
brothers.
3 brothers.
Abused by their pastor. It wasn't just sodomizing them, it was inserting objects into them.
Yeah, that's painful, very painful, and that one of the things that we need to do, just jumping out from Nkechi, is the fact that when you begin to notice some of these things, I think mothers, fathers should begin the communication therapy with their children, I dare say from suckling. We have to encourage them to say, we are explaining you. I also know that mothers do something and they are told that this male child, are you sure this male child is going to be virile? Is he going to be strong and stuff like that? So you wake up in the morning and then you go look at his Thomas Hardy. And if the Thomas Hardy is not, right from you, then, mommy, why are you doing this and stuff like that? Come on, it's because I just want it to be okay and all that. You begin that process of communicating. Is your head paining you? Is your finger paining you? I'm going to dako for you. I'm going to circumcise you. Mommy, and all that kind of stuff. You begin to take a cue. And I think parents and siblings should get away from you put yourself in that kind of situation. Let's begin to now look at the investigations surrounding the Dubai experience of who raped of who and all that kind of stuff. Society jumped into it and a lot
and
of
started abusing and
wanting to cover up. No, you don't need to do that, until you get to the root cause. Nkechi, may I also tell you, and I'm sure you know, perhaps broadcasting code will not make us to make mention of certain things. Yes, the anus, the straight, and I like men to please come out and say, Akinfatunke, you ain't know what you're saying. I love it so I can get it to engage me.
Yeah.
And I can tell you for free that as far back as in the 50s, oral mouth-to-mouth fellatio thing has been happening, especially with much more elderly women and children. Oh, it's sweet, come on, it's sweet, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, true.
And then the young boy now then say, there is one I know. If it was me, I'll tell you it was me. I mean, a lot of us are now in the departure lounge. And we are saying this for the sake
of the boys coming after us.
And the young lady did something. She came from the abroad and she wiped some lollipop and sweets on the orifice. No, please give this to me. Okay, if you want it, it's sweeter here. The person that is involved, I am sure, is watching me. He will be surprised that I can come on television to say this, and I say to him, for every of you, there are so many others. May I also say that I did my schooling in the north. You want us to go there?
Yeah.
You want us to go to the north?
Let's go there.
You will be amazed and shocked that male children are treated like the Europeans treat dogs. Trained up to a level, coming, and our ladies in the harem and all that kind of stuff will have to come and do some service, if you understand what I mean. The worst one is the dandaudas.
Yeah, dandaudas. Dandaudas.
Don't forget, we talk about almajiris. We talk about out-of-school children. Go see what is happening in the IDP camps. We say IDP officials are raping girls. Go and see what some ladies are doing to the boy child. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on the other side, but a lot of some of these things are suppressed. And so therefore, what we need to do is to begin to start from the beginning, which is exactly what we are doing here.
Yeah, creating the awareness.
Why are you bringing it on television?
So people know it happens.
Oh, so you want...
So we stop covering it up.
You want awareness, and I think people should ordinarily call in and come and share their experiences. No, the problem is that a lot of people are, you know, a bit shy, and we say whatever it is. Down to the male children. When you point one hand, 4 points at you. And part of it is, okay, you are seeing a lot of these things and you're supposed to be macho and stuff like that. I have seen a male child who was abused, felt bad about it, came out and was making a lot of mouth to his fellow group. Is it possible for you to have done that with your teacher? I've done that with my teacher, and now I have the power. I am now the Ichoku. I'm now the most... So he now being placed at a pedestal, forgetting that he's not only jeopardizing his future, he's gone. The second abuse I faced in my life was in Federal Government College, Sokoto.
Why did you school it out in the first place?
My teacher, who is... I say it because my teacher who was a youth corper, you know, back to us, a youth corper is the next best thing that you can see next to God.
How old were you then?
I must have been about 16, 17.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
This was before I got into university. And then the youth corps teacher, some of us were even lusting after her. The other teachers are much more older, but you know, the youth corps teacher came in.
She was younger.
And she was, I said, yeah. And then this school teacher now then called me and said, I hear your birthday is going to be April 31st and stuff like that. And she gave me a package. You need to see how I walk back to the hostel, gingerly. Oh my God, I've been given a gift. And then his fellow boys now converge on me. They are all grandfathers and grandmothers now. Many of them are still alive. They will be able to confirm. I was in HO House in Federal Government College, Sokoto. And then everybody now then comment on me, why must it be you? You know, like Joseph with a multicolor. What is in there? So they thought it, lo and behold, I am talking of 1976. 1976. No, sorry, 1977.
Okay.
The first tack year.
Okay, first year.
And then I saw, and to me, that was, what is all this? And you know what the boys now then did? Foolish boys. Oh yeah, let's go back to the teacher. More out of envy that time. And I went to the teacher and then said, why did you give it? I said, but I gave it for it, or whatever it is. It's a lie. We know how some of these things go. That was somehow nipped in the bud. But by the time I got to ABU, in many of the hostels, even in secondary school, even in primary school, I saw male students sodomizing fellow male students.
Now, as we need to round off this conversation, Nkechi,
Yes.
speak to the mothers and fathers for me.
Okay, so
Who should we go to? Our fathers or our mothers?
okay, so if you notice all of these signs in your son, I will always tell you that you need to take your son to a doctor immediately. Don't sit down and say, I don't want to embarrass myself, it's embarrassing. But the trauma and the after effect of abuse on that boy will linger for years. So I always recommend see a child psychologist, see a doctor, they'll take him to therapy, and he'll get himself.
What about poverty? What if we can't afford the doctor? Can we go to public hospitals? Can they treat it? Can we go to general hospital, primary healthcare center?
I know Lasut has Miracle Center.
Okay.
Perfect place for your son to get access counseling and therapy.
And I thought in Lagos State, care for children under the age of 18 is actually free, almost free.
Oh, there's this concept of see something, say something, be bold about it.
Yes.
You think that you are going to be prosecuted. The state even though that's shaky, the state should come to your defense.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it is a male child or a female child, or we're talking about male child. It is a male child that is abused.